Welcome to the Therapist After Dark podcast. Ever wonder what happens when the therapy session is over? Well, we're digging into the funny, heartwarming, and surprising stories therapists have after they leave the office. Join us, two mental health professionals, every week for a dose of laughter, a touch of drama, and maybe a few shocking revelations, because therapists are people too.
Okay, so yeah, how do you deal with, or whenever you're dating someone, how do they deal with you being a therapist? Would you say they're receptive?
So I've had both ends of the spectrum. I've had one person reject it, stop therapizing me, even when I wasn't. Oh, you think like you're like better because you're a therapist, you think you know better.
I do.
Yeah, but it's crazy because like in that situation, I would really try and hide that piece of me. And then like so I really wouldn't even be therapizing. That's my word, therapizing, or I wouldn't even really be like putting it out in the world that I do therapy.
Yeah.
Because for that person, it made them uncomfortable. So it made me think that everyone else felt uncomfortable. So whatever. That person no longer. Fast forward a few years with me having a few years of private practice under my belt. I think it really seeps into my relationship right now. Sorry if I'm calling you out, but it's being received in a much more positive way. In fact, the person really appreciates it, which I love. Like I feel heard, I feel seen, but at the same time, it can be hard because I don't want to be
The therapist.
in the relationship. But also at the same time, it gives me the control that I so desire.
I'm just a therapist over here still doing her work.
Yeah.
Yes, that control piece, honey.
Yeah.
I get it.
But I will actually say, like, this is coming from therapist Ange right now. Or like, I don't want to even be a therapist in this moment. So like, I'm pretty clear about that.
Yeah.
Because I think it's really important. Like, yes, being a therapist is part of who I am, and I wouldn't be a therapist if I didn't feel like that was innate in me somehow.
Yeah.
But also, it's not all that I am. Especially in a relationship, it's not a line that I say frequently. It's not my job to be your therapist.
Yeah.
I just had to tell like a little client of mine, like she's going through something with her significant other, and I'm like, you're not their therapist. It's really hard. And being a therapist, being a coach, and reminding yourself like I'm not my partner's therapist.
Totally. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because like you, obviously we have this innate feeling like we want to fix and solve everyone's problems, and it's our role in this planet to be the fixer and the solver for everyone.
Yeah.
It's not like that. And what I've noticed more than anything, I would say more recently, is that I don't know if you've ever gotten this, but sometimes my clients, even as a therapist, they would not necessarily complain about how much they had to pay, but they would like make little snide comments about how expensive, therapy is or coaching is. And what I recognize it as now is that is you telling me that you're giving me permission to speak into your life. But without that exchange, there's no permission. So whenever I maybe try to speak into a friend's life who doesn't give me permission, I met with a lot of resistance. And I do the same thing with my partner. I met with a lot of resistance. So there has to be some sort of exchange, and whether that's physical permission, just saying like, I'd love therapist Angela right now to give me what I need. I think that's like so crucial to having healthy relationships, being in roles that we have. Because I have to do the same thing with my husband. I'm like, do you want, or even my friends, do you want Coach Brittany or do you want friend, ride or die Brittany? Because if you want friend, ride or die Brittany, she'll be like, fuck him, he sucks, blah, blah. But if you ask Coach Brittany, she's going to be like, well, what was your role in that? Did you also co-create this relationship for yourself? What was your part? I'm gonna roast you. Right. So be careful who you ask for.
But I will say it is really nice to be in a relationship when that comes out without permission and it's appreciated.
Yeah, it's received well because your heart's in the right place and they clearly know that.
Right.
Versus maybe somebody who was maybe insecure in your previous relationships who couldn't receive that information. That's okay. Bye to them. See you later.
Ta-ta.
Ta-ta. So, what about whenever you are meeting people for the first time and that question comes up, like, what do you do for work?
Mhm.
Do you lie?
No.
You tell them?
Yeah, I like to see them squirm. It throws, honestly, this is so, I don't know, fill in the blank here. This is so, but I love when people ask me, what do you do? And I'm like, I'm a therapist. And they're like, oh, like a physical therapist? I'm like, no, like a psycho, like a mental health therapist. Like a psychotherapist. They're like, what? I'm a therapist, mental health. So
Yeah.
it's like psychotherapy. But it's always so funny because people, I don't know, like they look at me and like, I don't know, maybe because I'm tall, do I look athletic? I don't know. Like, oh, like a physical therapist. That's safe for you. Okay.
Whatever.
Because it really is sometimes too scary for people to say, like, oh, mental health therapist or oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Because I don't know, there's still obviously some stigma around them. Not as much as there used to be, but I found that it's safer for people to say, oh, physical therapist.
Right. Well, they don't want to be read.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's because that's exactly what happens. They'll be like, oh, are you like analyzing me right now? Do you want to be analyzed? Are you inviting me into your psyche right now?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because like, especially now, it's like being a therapist had its own like implications. But fuck, every single time people are like, what do you do? I'm like, I'm a relationship coach. Oh my God, I need you. And then they start telling me like all this stuff about their relationship and blah, 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 and what's not working. And I'm like, and I sometimes have a hard time in those moments to be like, I'm not working right now. Or to try to like divert the conversation because I don't want to be rude to someone who doesn't know me or who someone clearly is in some sort of distress. But at the same time, it's fuck, I should just lie. My boss, she said she used to tell people that she was a nail technician. And so she wouldn't have to deal. She's like, yeah, I would just lie and tell people I'm a nail technician. So she does not have to, and she would always have her nails like all done and all fun things. So it was not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe I'll be like, I'm in real estate or something. I don't know.
And then what if they ask? But that is also my snarky response sometimes. Not snarky, but like, you paying me? Other than that, like, I have no interest.
Well, it's funny because I could say that
I know,
to my friends because they're like, you know, because it's a joke, but it's like not a joke, but it's a joke, you know. But to people, like to strangers, it's really hard for me to like, well, are you paying me?
Oh, I say it to strangers all the time.
I bet you do.
Well, again, like I like to see them squirm. No, but it's so funny because like people, you could tell, like, because it always starts. It's literally this is almost always a chain of events. Oh, a physical therapist. No, a psychotherapist. So are you psychoanalyzing me right now? Are you paying me? Like that is always
That's the thing.
Yeah, because you couldn't be comfortable enough to be okay with me, even the possibility of me being a mental health professional. So I'm gonna continue to make you more uncomfortable. Because that's and that's the anxiety therapist in me, right? It's about dealing with feeling uncomfortable. And then I'll make you talk about it.
I'm just helping. This is me just doing you a favor.
Here I am being a therapist, so I'll tell you that I'm not. But
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Seriously, still when you first told me you were a therapist, there was fucking way. There was no way. And now I completely understand. But at the time I was like, nah, she must be a physical therapist. I was kidding.
When did you first meet me?
4 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh no, even like 5 years now. Because we moved in below you before COVID.
Well, it's interesting too because I was doing at that point I was at a different job and I was doing work that I really didn't want to do and I was burnt out. I was in a medical field and medical and mental health as much as I try to put them together.
Yeah. Weren't you working at the hospital?
But I, before that I was working at a clinic, like a community health clinic.
Oh, okay.
They were trying to integrate, they had a grant to integrate like mental health but medical people think Western medicine always thinks they're right. And they're not. And I didn't, So I was spinning my tires there. I was a little burnt out probably when you first met me.
Well, no, it wasn't.
What? Was that crazy?
Do you want to know? Do you want me to share?
What did I do? Oh my gosh.
No, there wasn't any specific moment. It was just the attitude. And maybe that's what you meant by like being burnt out. There was just attitude that like you had like such strong boundaries. And like you were just kind of rigid in your thinking about humanity as a whole, I feel like at the time. And I was like, oh, you just had such strong opinions about human behavior that I was like, oh, but she does this for a living? I was like, there's no way. There's just no way. But now it just makes so much sense. You make so much sense as far as your career goes, as far as how you've established yourself as a professional private practice. And it doesn't like, I couldn't imagine you doing anything else.
Yeah.
You know, besides being maybe an artist that,
Yeah.
like, you know, where people were just buying your art and you're just.
That's the next,
painting.
I think, yeah.
Iteration of your life.
I'm gonna go live in the foothills of like France.
I love it.
Right.
Have you ever seen Vicky Cristina Barcelona?
No.
Oh gosh. Well, it's this movie with what's her name? Scarlett Johansson and some other people. Anyway, but there's this scene with Penelope Cruz in there, and she's this artist, and she's all impassioned, and they're in the middle of Spain, and she's like just painting, and her hair's in her thing, and like whatever. And I was like, oh, I wonder what it's like to live like that, with that level of passion and like, just whatever. This is who I am, and like I was like, I've never been that person.
I think I'm getting to that person.
Ooh, I love it.
Yeah. I think I still have to. I really think being a therapist or being in the mental health field, I don't know. I'm just gonna say it. I feel like I'm able to grow more than most people, right? Like,
Yeah.
You're constantly, unless you are that person who's seeking therapy or coaching or just mental health stuff, you know, you're putting yourself in a place to constantly grow yourself. But when you are the provider, you're doing that on the other end, right?
Yeah.
You are constantly, and we are growing and growing
Right.
as a human. If you think about like reaching like self-actualization, I think there's one of the best paths to get there is being a therapist.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah. I mean, if you're actually like self-aware enough to know that you need to grow, because I feel like there are some therapists out there that are just not very good.
Yeah.
Coaches definitely not very good at what they do, and they just stay where
stagnant.
they are. Yeah. Because I think that's good enough. So yeah, but I could see that absolutely, like, because you're constantly, for me, I don't know if this happens to you, but I feel like I'm constantly meeting the clients of who I used to be like 3 years ago. And it's been like that my entire journey.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, like, yeah, I've got you. Like, I'm no longer suffering in that way. I know exactly how you feel.
Right.
And like, let's help you, you know, alleviate that in some capacity. Get your goals.
Yeah, but it's so cool to see, like, 3 years ago I was there, and then in another 3 years I can say the same thing, like, oh, maybe,
3 years from now you'll be painting in south of France with your hair in a clip and just being like, this is who I am. Take me as I am, and I'm a painter now and do the things. And I have my shows. My paintings sell for billions of dollars. And I hope that for you.
Yeah.
I wish I see that vision.
I know. I do too.
Get after it. I know. What's in my next life? Because I do see yourself being a therapist forever. Obviously, you just said that, but
yeah, not really, but yes and no. Like if I were to go just paint in France or something, I think I would still need to do some therapy.
A little bit, yeah.
Like maybe do like retreats or something like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I know. I'm trying to think of what my next iteration is. I feel like I've always seen. I don't know how this would work because I've hosted retreats before, but part of me also could see myself hosting like having an actual retreat center, not a center because that sounds so like clinical. Yeah, a retreat sanctuary, like farm or something like that, where people come and it's kind of like this revolving door of new people that come, so I can provide like an experience. And I could see that, just shifting the coaching that I've done to something more like that. But if I wasn't a coach anymore, I'd probably be like, so we have an Airbnb. I'd probably be like bed and breakfast or like Airbnb or whatever. I know it's so silly and so cliche.
I was just thinking that today. I was driving today. It's a beautiful day. I was like, I think I would love to be like an owner of an inn.
Right?
I love to cook.
Yeah. I know, it just sounds, there's something about it that just seems so romantic. It's probably not as romantic as we're making it.
Probably not.
But I feel
why
like,
not? We can make life as romantic as we want.
oh, yes. Amen, sister. I love that. That is so beautiful. You have the energy you are bringing today. I'm just here for this. I'm here for Ange. Yes. Thank you. We're going to romanticize the fuck out of our lives. And I'm going to be.
And if you don't want to, get out of my life.
Yeah. Go somewhere else.
I'm gonna live in my romantic life by myself.
Yeah.
Kidding.
Well, it's funny because I always feel like that, when I think about, being this impassioned painter.
Mm.
I just wish I could paint.
Yeah.
And I think that's why that lifestyle, when I see it, I just feel, no, it's not envy. It's just like, oh, how do people do that? Where they can just like paint their feelings and you do that. Like, I just don't
I'm
even
literally going home
to
do
paint.
that.
Right, I know.
Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for your show.
But it's not fun. So like,
What do you mean?
I mean, it isn't. But like,
Is it like pressured or something? You feel like too much pressure? Or
well, when I feel myself getting too, like, I'll just do something like, to get myself out of my head, and then those pieces end up being the pieces I actually show, which is kind of interesting.
yeah.
But yes, as much as I love to romanticize the idea of like painting, and it's mostly those times when I'm painting, I'm in flow and I'm in the moment and it's amazing. But there's a lot of challenges that come in. It's a lot of internal stuff.
Oh, I bet. I feel like the same thing happens with writers and stuff like that. I feel like I would write a book if it didn't seem like such a difficult process. But,
Right.
And that's what the authors always say. They're
Right.
like, in their notes, they're like, thank you to all these people who helped me push through these blocks and blah. It's like, yeah, I don't think I have the stamina to sit there and try to write a book for a year or to paint something that like really means that I feel is like good enough. And I think that means there's some work I need to do.
Because it's just about showing up, at least. Just show up. I mean, it does help that I had a professor in college who she gave me a 0 in everything I did. And I was like one of the best in the class, if not. I would say like third best. Okay, I'm being nice. And
Angela does not have a confidence issue.
well, and I would do my work, 0. And like, I would cry in class. We would get into arguments in class, like cursing each other out, me and this professor. Like, it was wild. Like, and she would tell me like, oh, you'll never make it. Like, she did a little overboard, okay? But at the end, she gave me an A, and she was like, you're one of the best students I ever had. She's like, I wanted you to not fear failure. And I use that till this day. Like, yeah, because she always used to give me 0s because art is too perfect. It's too pretty. So she would make me redo it. So it wasn't, she's like, you're making art for people, like, you're not making art for yourself. Stop making it pretty. Well, there's Angela's pretty art. She would make me feel so bad about it. Like, even though everyone in the class was like, this is the best piece, she would give me 0 every single time.
And then she told you I was doing this for your benefit, and it's because
she was, it was. But
I feel like it takes tough love to a whole new level. I don't know.
Yeah, we got into like blowouts, and like I went to like a tiny undergrad, and like I feel like I should have been kicked out for some of it. We should have been kicked out too. I think I made like formal complaints about it.
Yeah, I mean that's ridiculous.
But at the end, I was so appreciative of it, and it's something that I take with me
so
to this day.
What if she never came back and like said what she said?
I don't know.
How do you think that would have affected you?
I don't know.
We're just happy that she actually ended up being, I guess, a decent human being. But had she not, do you think you would have stopped doing art?
I don't know. Yeah, it was wild.
When tough love goes too far. I don't know.
Yeah. Again, she was a little off her rocker, but it translates so well into what I do today. Like, I don't know. I'm coining this term. I don't know if it's already a quote, but a client and I came up with this the other day, and it was like, when you fear failure, you fail yourself. So
yeah, absolutely.
That has always been something that has stuck with me and has been driving what I do. So
yeah, agreed.
But,
I mean,
and being an artist or just
being
yourself, right? Like, you are constantly faced with the idea of failure, and we can avoid it by trying to be perfect and putting things like little boxes, making it nice and pretty, but then you're not actually risking it all, and you're not moving and growing and going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's easy to do in certain areas, and then there's certain areas that it like really feels really difficult to face the failure of it. And typically what happens, I feel like if you have that, is it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Just self-sabotage your way.
So much better to predict your failure than to allow it to happen unknowingly.
Right, of course.
So that's
right.
Well, that's anxiety, but that's also anxiety.
Call it trauma, call it negative beliefs, call it anything but anxiety, and I'm down.
There's a fear of failure.
Anxiety. Oh, I need to find a therapist. So I can deal with my anxiety so I can actually help people with anxiety. I don't know. Yeah.
We hope that you enjoyed the peek behind the therapy room curtain. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share the podcast. Until next time, remember, life's a journey, even for your therapist. Take care and see you next episode.